From Matthew chapter 13, verse 45 through 46, we have the parable of the pearl. Some people say the parable of the pearl of great price. Now, the Mormons say the pearl of great price is one of their books that was revealed by Joseph Smith. That's not what we're talking about. Joseph Smith was a false prophet. And don't get hoodwinked into believing any of that Mormon stuff. You know, Mormons came to have apostles. They have prophets. They have, they had 12 apostles at any time. At any time they have 12. If one dies, they have another one. And I know they had, at the time, they had 3, I think they run 3 prophets at all times as well. They're all false prophets. They're all false apostles. But let's see what... Now, remember, we talked about the treasure. Now we're going to the next level in the kingdom of heaven. God had to show what happened to Israel. You don't see Israel in this kingdom of heaven. Oh, there it is. It's hidden, right? It's the peculiar treasure. But then he says... Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant man seeking goodly pearls, who, when he had found one pearl of great price, he went and sold all that he had, and he bought it. Just take a stab. Who do you think the man looking for the goodly pearls is? Jesus again. Jesus seems to be the central focus of all these parables. So the kingdom of heaven is like this merchant man, Jesus, seeking goodly pearls, who when he has found one pearl of great price, he went and sold all that he had and he bought it. Sounds very similar to the last one, doesn't it? In other words, he sold everything. If he sold everything for the field and gained the hidden treasure, then he sold everything for the pearl. It cost him the same to get the field, to get the world, to get the treasure as it did to get the church. And that's why he puts all this together now. So he only pays once. Jesus doesn't come back and give his life over and over and over. Some Catholics will tell you that. Catholic priests will hold up the host. And did you know, I don't know if you've been in a Catholic church, when they hold it up, and then the guy rings the bell, ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling, and he brings it down. That's supposed to represent Jesus descends again from heaven. And he's sacrificed again, and then he takes it and he breaks it. He's crucifying Christ again, is what's happening. We talked about the earnest of the inheritance. Let's say you go out to buy a car. And let's say that now let's be realistic. Let's say the car costs $50,000. Okay, it's a nice car. You got to put some money down. Right? Especially if it's a used car. Let's say you're getting that $50,000 car, you're getting it for $25,000. It's on a used car lot. But that salesman has to know this car is going to move. You say you want it. You're going to go get a loan. I want earnest money, right? I want a down payment on this to make sure you're not just trying to, tell me you're interested, and then I'll never see you again. And then I'll lose the sale for the next time. That's called earnest money. But the best example, I think, of earnest is when a man proposes to his fiancée. Gives that diamond ring, engagement ring. That's earnest. So our earnest is when he sealed us with the Holy Spirit. See? If you were sealed with the Holy Spirit, you've got an engagement ring on your finger. You may not be in heaven yet, but you're wearing the ring. And in the Jewish tradition, when you were pledged to somebody in an engagement, when it was on, I mean, you can talk about it, right? But when it was on, you were as good as married. In other words, if either one of you went out and had sex with someone else, now you were an adulterer, even though you're not married yet, and you could be stoned. Right? But that's earnest. Now, this thing about, so we have Jesus, he's seeking a pearl, but we don't know what this pearl of great price is. So where are we going to go to get the answers? Well, what's the whole point here? The point is Jesus is coming to look. First, he gets the treasure. Now he's going for a pearl. But the Jews had nothing to do with pearls. The Jews believed that pearls were like the least. I mean, they mention all these gold and silver and gems. I mean, the high priest had all these gems on his chest, remember? So those gems, they were considered precious to the Jews. Guess who was really interested in pearls?
I was just guessing. Is it fishermen?
Gentiles. Especially Rome. A lot of the pearls came from India and from China. And later on, they found them in South America after the land was discovered. But most of it came from like the area India. I think maybe from Iran, but China, Asia. South Pacific. So a lot of pearls come from South Pacific. And pearl is in a oyster, right? Well, here's the thing. The meaning of the pearl cannot be confused. The pearl of great price can't be confused with the Jewish people being the treasure. We already dealt with that. Besides that, the Jews had nothing to do with the pearl. Jesus was looking. He went looking for the pearl of great price. He went to the Gentiles. And the gospel went out to the Gentiles. And we are that pearl of great price. What's cool is when you get to the New Jerusalem, the New Jerusalem has, remember we talked about that in Revelation, you have 12 gates. Whose names are on the 12 gates of the New Jerusalem, the holy city, heavenly city? The 12 tribes of Israel. Whose names are on the 12 foundations, which are gems? They're all different precious stones. The 12 apostles. But every gate is made of one gigantic pearl. And it speaks to us of this pearl of great price. There's something else about the pearl. Gems are naturally beautiful, and they just come, right? It's just part of physical science. They come out of the earth. I'm not a scientist, but I know that, like for a diamond, you have coal, and it's the carbon is so pressed that it can become a diamond. So it's like the compression can become a diamond. Some of the gems are a result of perhaps some type of situation where the rock got so hot and it turned into. I know that happened when Moses went up to the mountain. Jewish tradition said when he went to the mountain and he got those 10 commandments, the two tablets, and it's the 12 commandments. What Bible are you reading? You're reading none of them Bibles you warned us against. But remember, God took his finger and he shot out of his finger. He wrote on those tablets. And from the heat of his finger, the Jews documented that the original tablets were made out of sapphire. And it was because the heat was so intense from the finger of God. And it wasn't just that, but there was sapphire on top of the mountain. So that's...
Is that blue or green sapphire?
Blue. So that emerald is what you're thinking, green.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Now,
Remember,
if it's not really naturally occurring. It is and it isn't. It's not natural because let me explain to you how a pearl comes into existence. Some of you may know, but a lot of you probably don't. So what happens is there's an oyster. And the oyster is just sitting there minding his own, he's not going on vacation because he can't move. All he can do is open up his big old mouth. Womp, womp, womp. But what happens is a little piece of dirt or sand. One grain. That is important. It's one grain of sand gets into the oyster, and it becomes like it. You know how this happens to me, brother. I eat steak, and I get it caught in my teeth. And I have a hard time getting it out of my teeth, almost to the point where I don't even want to eat the steak. But we got this thing what was that called? The water pick. I use the water picker all the time to get that stuff out of there. It's an irritant. And if I left it there, my gums would swell up. Because I've had that happen. And you get an infection. That's what happens when that little grain of sand gets into the oyster. It starts becoming an irritant. And so the oyster has a way to deal with that. He secretes some type of secretion that's naturally something to protect him. And so he secretes that, and the secretion covers the grain. But doggone it, when you get a pebble in your shoe? You just can't stand it. You got to get the pebble out, right?
It hurts.
Well, that's the way it is. Now the oyster's got like a pebble in his shoe. So he secretes some more. And the pebble keeps getting bigger. And that's how pearls come. He keeps secreting, and the pearl gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, of course, when the oyster dies, it's not going to continue to grow. And then people die for it, and they find the oysters, they take out the pearls, and they become rich. Right? But it's not, it's natural in the sense that biologically that's how it happens. But without the oyster, it wouldn't exist. Now, think about Jesus. He wanted the pearl of great price. Think of Jesus as the oyster. And that pearl, what is that? It's like a pebble in his shoe. That's us. We're like that grain of sand, that irritant. The pebble in his shoe. But he thinks of us so highly. He wants us so much that he's willing to give of himself. What did the oyster do? He gave and gave and gave, and that pearl kept getting more and more beautiful. And I find that in my Christianity, even though long ago I accepted Jesus, it seems to me that he still gives and gives and gives. Have you noticed that?